Ladies and gentlemen, we are currently in the reddest month of the calendar, September, or Redtember as many refer to it, where the pain is typically an all time high and the mental fortitude required to push on through the storm is both exhausting and demoralizing. So let's look for some light at the end of the tunnel. All of us veterans in the crypto space understand that the pain, of course, is temporary and that better, brighter days do lie ahead for us. But how bright are these days likely to be and when will they be upon us? I'm going to look at what I believe the market's going to look like in this upcoming cycle and when I think is the best time to start taking profits. First, do me a favor. If you can hit the like and subscribe button, of course, it helps all things algorithm, but obviously, it also helps you stay in the know going forward, especially if you hit that bell notification. All right, to dive right in, if you listen to some big voices from VC guys like Raoul Powell, for instance, you may be inclined to believe that crypto is going to grow at around 3 times higher than it previously did during the last cycle. So that would put a total crypto market cap at around $10 trillion, which would amount to a Bitcoin price of around $200,000. While folks like Raoul Paul have been notoriously bullish in cycles past, with what seems to be a flood of new TradFi money entering the market or due to enter the market for the first time, there could be a large possibility of new patterns emerging. And so price points breaking out of what a typical diminishing returns chart may actually lead us to believe. Maybe I'm a little biased here, but in moments like this, I lean more heavily into the opinions of folks with feet both in the crypto and the traditional finance camps, as they tend to always have a more holistic viewpoint that lends more weight when we see going forward the more intense mixing of both these crypto and traditional finance worlds. We also have people like Tom Lee of Fundstrat talking about Bitcoin price getting somewhere close to around 180K to 200K towards the end of 2024. So not even necessarily at the perceived top in 2025. If these spot ETFs are approved, that will smooth the way for a lot of this new money to enter the market. And couple this with the Bitcoin halving, and it puts demand way ahead of supply and should pump prices dramatically. However, he does also go on to mention that if these ETFs are not approved, then we do run the risk of Bitcoin not quite breaking into the six-figure mark even. Now, as we mentioned, we do have to consider the law of diminishing returns. Every cycle thus far has shown lower and lower returns for crypto as a whole, with, depending how you label each cycle one around a 200x return, cycle two around 100x, cycle three around a 20x, and now cycle four, if we follow the same pattern, we should be looking at around a 10x or slightly less. Now, this would give us a price of around 150K BTC, which is a big, juicy, round number for a lot of folks to chase. Following this thought, we have entities like Pantera Capital, who have been major investors in crypto, predicting close to 148K Bitcoin top. So, what am I predicting when I look at all these factors and more? In short, I think it's a relatively lower risk to expect a 2x higher market value than the last crypto cycle, which would put Bitcoin price at around 138K, which is, of course, lower than that big, juicy round number and would put us ahead of a lot of those retail investors who are going to be chasing that 150K Bitcoin price, allowing us to exit potentially before the masses do. So, could we go higher? Absolutely. But that is definitely something that we're going to have to call as we start to see the market play out, and certainly how these tops are likely to affect our altcoin investments, as we're not going to be heavily invested, if at all, into Bitcoin in any case, as we're looking for much higher returns than what the mother of all cryptos is likely to give us. So right now, this is just to serve as a compass as we start to plot our investment course forward. Also, in these weeks and months, it is super important to understand that a lot of TA guys looking at the charts, as well as the mainstream media, are going to be saying that we could be seeing Bitcoin hitting much lower lows, even as low as 15K potentially. Be careful of this. While it could be somewhat true, it's also a game that is often intended to get the better of the retail investor that typically leads them to miss the bottom as they wait for those lower lows that are seemingly predicted by the experts. So make sure you are taking positions of DCAing as we go down, because you may miss the bottom before you even realize that you have. And as we've talked about before, as that market turns around, it happens instantly. So you'll never get another shot at the pie if you don't take advantage as we start to see lower and lower lows. Now, we have respected forecasters like Plan B, who's been one of the more accurate prediction makers to date, saying that buying Bitcoin, or for the most part, any of the projects that we're looking to invest in 6 months before the halving and selling around 18 months after the Bitcoin halving also amounts to the biggest return. So this means for us buying in November, which is quite literally around the corner, this is obviously a time-based investment model that leaves some flexibility in price expectations and rather sets your plan up to wait until a potential market top in October 2025 to take your profits and not necessarily looking at price for a sell signal. This could be a much more simple strategy for most of us by removing a lot of that emotion and price watching from the equation and literally just waiting until October before you start to make moves. Of course, the timeline of altcoins traditionally has been a little bit more sporadic, a little different, with somewhat of a delayed reaction when it comes to when they reach their tops. So we've also got to make sure that we're playing the market as we see it to a certain extent too. But with that being said, how does this affect some of the tokens and coins that we are currently interested in? I'm not going to drag this out. I think that, as always, it's going to be a lot more beneficial to just jump straight into the substance. So let's start with my biggest investments, and that is, of course, my Richard Hart projects, Pulse Chain, Hex, and PulseX. I believe that Pulse Chain has at least a 250x potential. Now, I'm banking on a lot more, but from today's prices, I think, in my opinion, a very conservative 250x would put the price at around 1 cent, that I think is very, very achievable and likely. Now, Pulse X, again, conservatively, I put another 250x as a target, putting price at around 0.0025 from today's price, which is only a 25x up from the initial SAC price. Now, please understand again that I'm using the word conservative here, as I truly believe that we are looking at these tokens being a major story of the upcoming cycle. And those of us holding strong will be riding a crazy wave of euphoria as our bag's value grows exponentially. Now, on to Hex. Quite simply, I am setting my initial price target at $1 between both PHEX and EHEX, which puts price up around 107x from the current average price between the two of 0.0093, I believe it is. Again, I'm using the word conservative, and I'm not touching my bags until we hit that $1 average between the two. Now, onto some other tokens that we also have an interest in. QNT, Quant. I believe we could be looking at around a $1,000 top conservatively, with potential to even hit between 4 and 5K in bullish scenarios. So conservatively, from today's low price of just over $92, that would be around a 10x with a potential upside of around a 53x in a very bullish scenario. So not as high a return as our Richard Hart projects, but a very solid project that gives us some diversification in our portfolio and currently offering entry points that are considerably lower than those that have been involved in that ecosystem for quite a while now, having been invested in the project for the last couple of months even. And now on to another of our inclusions, Gala. Quite simply, despite current issues, I think conservatively, we could be looking at around a 50-cent price point, up from today's price of around 0.014 cents, which would allow for a return of around a 35x. While in a more bullish scenario, I can see prices maybe even hitting the top of $1 to $2 that would be giving us a potential of 142x, which is not bad at all. Now, these are only a few projects within our portfolio, of course, but some solid potential returns, providing we are in and out at the right moments. As I've said time and time again, it's extremely important to focus on optimally setting up your portfolio for success now and continue then to build upon it strategically as these months and as these weeks go forth. Now, with that being said, I am extremely happy to announce that the Patreon investor group is ready to rock and roll, and we are almost ready to kick things off and move forward. We will be tracking my own portfolio in real time. This includes, of course, when we enter and exit projects and tokens, along with the reasoning behind these decisions and what kind of market research and due diligence goes into play. We will be running two separate crypto portfolios. The first will be our 5K to 100K challenge. The second portfolio will be our 25K to 1 million challenge. Now, this may seem very optimistic to those, especially if this is your first cycle. But let me tell you, I anticipate us being very, very pleased with our returns going forward. Of course, there will be percentage breakdown for folks with more money in the market who are working with higher value amounts. The same rules will likely apply for the most part to larger portfolio distributions, certainly as we look to DCA going forward. We will also be running a secondary portfolio that will be inclusive of stock additions to ensure that we are capitalizing on some truly breakthrough opportunities in areas such as AI, for instance. The link is below, and it will be open for a select number of folks to join the group. But please note, this is not aimed at newbies. While we, of course, welcome them, there are many groups out there who can help out with onboarding new people into crypto, as well as discuss some of the fundamentals and getting things set up. This crypto group is geared around making returns. As always, of course, asking questions within the group in Telegram, etc., is welcome, and I'm sure the community will help out. But this group, I cannot stress enough, is aimed very much on making the most of the upcoming cycle, and so the focus will be on portfolio building and not, the one-on-one discussions helping new folks getting set up for the first time. So if you want to join the group, click the link below to join before we kick things off and start to get our portfolios up and running. Lastly, as some of you may have been aware, in a previous X post of mine, I've been making some significant strides in bringing the real world venture space and the crypto space together, utilizing my own network and background. And no, this does not mean I am launching a project or coin of my own. This isn't something based around a quick money making scheme. Quite the opposite. This is rather to provide legitimate investment opportunities outside of crypto. The ethos here is to offer an opportunity to join the group and provide avenues of real world investment opportunities aimed at building your net worth and residual income streams alike. It's important to note that this group is not for most people. It is aimed at folks who have already perhaps accumulated a certain level of investable income and wealth. There will also be, a limited number of spots available for this as well. So again, this is not aimed at, your average investor. This is aimed at folks who have even somewhat experienced a certain level of success in crypto and is looking for more viable ways to put their money to work. So remember, the Patreon group is for folks looking to build their wealth, build their portfolio to attain higher wealth. And the Venture Club will be aimed at putting money to work in ways that are otherwise not typically available to your typical investor. Also, providing access to a network, introducing to valuable folks that you need in your network to put your money to better use, with events, regular meetings aimed at discussing opportunities, as well as guidance and foundation laying elements like tax strategy and off-ramping and all of that good stuff. So the club itself comes with a higher ticket for membership, also due to the overheads involved and the limited spots. So this is for serious folks only. And if that is not you, the Patreon will most certainly be a better avenue for you to spend your funds and your time and your energy. So anyone who perhaps thinks that they fit this criteria, feel free to send me a direct email to bencage@yahoo.com. Again, post it below to show your interest, and I'll add you to the list. And so make sure that you are kept in the loop as we make progress on that front. So a lot of exciting things happening, all of which are set up to help this community grow our wealth significantly over the next weeks and months, so that when we do hit that bull cycle, not only have we put ourselves in a situation where we can start pulling some much earned returns into our profit pile, but then we also have a mechanism, a vehicle, and a driving force to put that money to work thereafter in the world outside of crypto. So be sure to subscribe, turn on the bell notification, all that good stuff, and make sure that you're aware of everything in real time going forward. Patreon link below. Send me an email if you're interested in the Venture Club, and I will, of course, catch you on the next one.